Echo and HarperAudio present The Icon and the Idealist, Margaret Sanger, Ware Dennett, and the Rivalry that brought birth control to America, by Stephanie Gorton. Read by Janina Edwards. Introduction. Great is truth, but still greater, from a practical point of view, is silence about truth. Aldous Huxley, Forward to Brave New World, 1946. In a Brooklyn courtroom on Tuesday, April 23, 1929, the judge and jury heard the case of 57-year-old Ware Dennett. Peering brightly through her glasses, Dennett was determined to fight the charge leveled against her, a federal indictment for obscenity. An artist and activist long divorced, Dennett had written a sex education booklet, The Sex Side of Life, for her two teenage sons. Clear and informative without being moralistic, the pamphlet was soon sought after by friends, reprinted by the medical press, and sold directly from Dennett's apartment via mail order. After a puritanical upbringing, whose shadow she had worked hard to outrun, Dennett had decided the next generation should be better equipped. Defying the law was not the point, at least in the beginning. But a vice agent had learned what she was up to and written to her posing as a customer, and early in 1929, Dennett was charged with violating the statute known as the Comstock Act. According to that law, Dennett had crossed the line of decency. She had written frankly about sex and sent those pages through the mail. After 42 minutes, the all-male jury returned a guilty verdict. Reporters hustled out to file their stories. "Grandmother found guilty," went the headlines. Dennett stayed steady. When her sentence was announced, a $300 fine, she stood and gave a short speech she'd prepared about how she would rather serve a lengthy prison sentence. The press swarmed around her, and the next day's headlines called the verdict medieval, speculating the jury must be frightened of sex if they were willing to punish Dennett and try to keep the next generation trapped in the Victorian era. Dennett herself, meanwhile, balked at the media's fixation on her gray hair. "I am not doddering yet," she told her family. Her perseverance paid off. After that initial decision was reversed on appeal, Dennett's acquittal in the trial for The Sex Side of Life was a landmark victory for free speech. Few history books dwell on Dennett's story, and current debates over sex education and reproductive rights rarely mention her name. But what is interesting about figures like Ware Dennett, the almost rans, the bright failures, the buried drafts of the past, is that they are liable to suddenly start speaking to us again. We can choose, if we like, to listen. Ware Dennett was an inspired and stubborn visionary who shaped today's reproductive rights and free speech debates. Yet she is not part of the present imagination in the same way as her contemporary, Margaret Sanger, though her work continues to affect us, arguably more broadly. Today, writes Laura Weinrib, a legal scholar, United States v. Dennett is viewed as a case that fundamentally redefined the way that lawyers, judges, and activists understood the category of civil liberties. Besides her work for sex education and free speech, Dennett spent grueling years in the early 1920s lobbying Congress for contraception to be struck from the federal obscenity statutes. In other words, she fought to legalize birth control. She defied gatekeeping by the federal courts, the medical establishment, and vice suppression squads, the latter a force to be reckoned with in much of America in the years Dennett was trying to change the law. If speech about matters of everyday human existence, anatomy, sex, and childbearing were truly free, and knowledge liberally distributed, then justice, happiness, and peace would follow. So Dennett's thinking went, shaped by early encounters with utopian ideas about gender equality and social justice. Margaret Sanger, today simultaneously lionized as the founding mother of Planned Parenthood and decried as a eugenicist, is the most famous figure from the birth control struggle. Sanger, 7 years younger than Dennett, had a background in nursing, legendary career.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?